After the horrific Valentine's Day shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, the Broward County Sheriff's Office has been taking some heat, and for a good reason. It was learned during the massacre that 3 Broward County deputies waited outside and 1 cowered in fear as Nicholas Cruz mowed down 17 innocent people with his weapon. Since then, Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel has been in the hot seat as people ask how this could have happened and what is going to be done to ensure this sort of tragedy never occurs again. Though instead of Sheriff Israel accepting the blame for his office's failures, he is passing the blame and making excuses for the cowardice actions of those deputies that horrible day in recent interviews. If that was not bad enough, this crooked sheriff just made a disgusting admission about his handling of this crime during a live broadcast that has the American public in shock and President Trump stunned. Over the last week and a half, all eyes in our country have been fixed on South Florida and the tragic shooting that took place there, sparking the gun control debate once again. The American people are perplexed, and rightfully, to how this deranged shooter was able to take the lives of so many people and what was done, if anything, to stop him. The frustration only has increased as we all have learned that the FBI and the Broward County Sheriff's Office received numerous tips concerning the erratic behavior of Nicholas Cruz the days leading up to the murder. However, the worst of the revelations is that 4 deputies could have put a stop to the slaughter that was occurring inside the high school, but chose not to. He was pointing his gun at nothing. Student says he watched as at Broward Sheriff School Resource Officer Scott Peterson hid behind a staircase during the Stoneman Douglas shooting. At WSVNpic.twitter.com, Miracle, Brian Enton, at Brian Enton, February 23, 2018. Here is more from CNN. When Coral Springs police officers arrived at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, on February 14 in the midst of the school shooting crisis, many officers were surprised to find not only that Broward County Sheriff's Deputy Scott Peterson, the armed school resource officer, had not entered the building, but that 3 other Broward County Sheriff's deputies were also outside the school and had not entered, Coral Springs sources tell CNN. The deputies had their pistols drawn and were behind their vehicles, the sources said, and not one of them had gone into the school. In a disastrous interview on CNN, Sheriff Israel faced off with liberal talking head Jake Tapper on how he could have handled the situation differently. And, instead of Sheriff Israel admitting his massive faults, he took the time to pat himself on the back and even going as far as to tout his leadership as amazing and comparing himself to the president. Partial transcript of the exchange below. "I've exercised my due diligence, I've led this county proudly as I always have," he said. "We have restricted that deputy as we look into it. You know, deputies make mistakes, police officers make mistakes, we all make mistakes, but it's not the responsibility of the general or the president if you have a deserter." "You look into this. We're looking into this aggressively, and we'll take care of it, and justice will be served." Are you really not taking any responsibility for the multiple red flags that were brought to the attention of the Broward Sheriff's Office about this shooter before the incident? Tapper asked. Jake, I can only take responsibility for what I knew about. I exercised my due diligence. I've given amazing leadership to this agency. Israel started. Amazing leadership? Tapper asked incredulously. Yes, Jake. There's a lot of things we've done throughout this. You don't measure a person's leadership by a deputy not going into. These deputies received the training they needed, Israel said. Now that liberals and Sheriff Israel are trying to blame the NRA for the tragedy, Trump is fighting back by proposing servicemen and women who are teachers be allowed to carry firearms in schools. I never said, give teachers guns, like was stated on fake news at CNN and at NBC. What I said was to look at the possibility of giving concealed guns to gun-adept teachers with military or special training experience, only the best. "20% of teachers, a lot, would now be able to," Donald J. Trump, at Donald Trump, February 22, 2018. Immediately fire back if a savage sicko came to a school with bad intentions. Highly trained teachers would also serve as a deterrent to the cowards that do this. Far more assets at much less cost than guards. A gun-free school is a magnet for bad people. Attacks would end. Donald J. Trump, at Donald Trump, February 22, 2018. Currently, there is a DOG program called Troops to Teachers, TTT, which helps vets become education professionals. Via military.com, the TTT mission is to 1. Assist transitioning service members to become employed as teachers. 2. Assist our nation's youth by providing good role models. To meet the objective of assisting eligible military personnel to transition to a new career as public school teachers, a network of state TTT offices has been established to provide participants with counseling and assistance regarding certification requirements, routes to state certification, and employment leads. General Mattis, as Secretary of Defense, could expand the Troops to Teachers program in order to supply more military veterans as teachers to schools. That would solve a lot of problems, and we wouldn't have to rely on partisan law enforcement officials who fail to do their jobs like Sheriff Israel did. For Sheriff Israel to even try and make excuses for himself on why 4 of his deputies failed to act in this shooting is disgusting. It is evident to anyone with an ounce of common sense that the failure to act in this tragedy falls squarely on the shoulders of Sheriff Israel and no one else. He is their boss and is who they report to, and there are no excuses for this behavior to have happened on his watch. Any strong leader would have told these deputies to engage this shooter and take him down so that no innocent person was harmed. However, he allowed it to happen for whatever sick reason, and hopefully, we find out what that was so that he can be held responsible for it. In the meantime, we wait and keep the pressure until we get answers and the victims receive the justice they deserve. The Gateway pundit Jeff Rainforth contributed to this story. Follow us on Facebook